Before we start, I used to live in upstate New York, so I have a very healthy fear of the woods. When the sun went down, we went inside no matter what. It is so scary out there. So I hope you enjoyed these as much as I enjoyed them. If you've never liked a video before, let this be your first time. Enjoy the show. So there was this couple that was from a small town. They were from London, Ohio. They fell in love in high school and they proceeded to get married after high school. After about 6 years of being together and having a child of their own, they started to look for houses that they wanted to raise their daughter in. They wanted to get out of the city life. They wanted to enjoy nature and they wanted to pull back from society a little bit, so they started looking for houses that were a little bit more woodsy, less residential, more isolated. They were looking into woodsy property, but they found this one particular house that was even further out than they were expecting. It was more isolated than any of the other options, but they fell in love with this house and they just needed it. So they put the money together and they decided to buy it. And you know, when you move into a new house, it kind of feels like a hotel at first. You're not super comfortable in it for the first few weeks, but as they started to settle in, they kind of went back to their regular routine. Once they were settled in, the husband started working a little bit more often again. Obviously, having a mortgage was a little bit more expensive than what they were doing before, so he had to start picking up more shifts. And also, he wanted to provide even more for his daughter and more for his wife, so he started picking up night classes to become an apprentice to hire his wage. So this husband was super hardworking, and he would be gone all day and all night, pretty much 12 hours at a time. The wife was a stay-at-home mom and just stayed home with the daughter and had all of this quality time to spend with her daughter. It was a beautiful thing as it started. But what started off as something beautiful, the wife really enjoyed her time by herself in the woods, but at night, she started hearing stuff outside of her house. She said she would hear scurrying around the perimeter of her house at night, and the husband was obviously not there at night, so it freaked her out a little. She was new to living completely in the woods, so she would just look out the window and look for whatever animal was making that sound, because once you spot it and you know it's a fox or you know it's a beaver or a raccoon or a skunk, you get less scared. When you just hear a sound and you're like, oh, is that a bear? You kind of get freaked out. So she just wanted to get her eyes on this thing to calm down a little bit. And they had these big windows, so whenever she was doing house chores or getting dinner ready for her husband to get home, she would always be able to see a large chunk of outside. And she would end up spending a lot of time just looking out of these windows trying to find this sound. And then one night, after she put her daughter to sleep and her husband still wasn't home, she started to hear that scurrying around her house again. She couldn't see clearly outside because obviously it's completely dark out there and she has lights in her house. So she went all the way up to the glass, cupped her hands a little bit to get a better look at what was outside, because all she wanted to do was see this thing so it wouldn't freak her out. But as she has her face pressed up to the glass, she sees a set of eyes right on the perimeter of her yard, right behind the tree line. And she immediately got a sense of relief because she's like, okay, it's an animal. I know what it is now. It's all good. It had like yellowish orange eyes. So she's like, not a human, all good, not a person, not a stalker, we're fine. Since she knows what it is now, she just goes on with her chores and she goes into a completely different room and just continues cleaning up the house for when her husband gets home. But while she's picking stuff up, from the corner of her eye, she sees out of another window. And right outside of that window was that pair of eyes. But this time, it didn't seem like a dog, because a dog is small. Not that all dogs are small, they could be big, but their eyes aren't at human level. They're not 6 feet tall looking in through your window. And she didn't see any paws on the glass, so the dog definitely wasn't standing up. It just looked like a figure with yellow and orange eyes. She gets so freaked out that she looks away for a second before checking on the eyes again, and they're actually gone this time. And she doesn't know if she's working herself up, if she's just freaked out from what she saw, or if the sounds are making her see things. So she wants to get a better look at this thing. She wants a guarantee result that this is an animal so that she could feel safe. So she immediately starts turning off all of her lights so she could get a better look outside of her windows. Once all of the lights are off, she goes back to the kitchen where she saw the eyes for the first time, and she goes and does that same thing that she was doing. She goes to cup her eyes around the glass. And right when she puts her face up to the window and her hands right here, the figure with the yellow eyes comes directly in front of her. So they're face to face, just glass in between. She actually falls down. She falls right onto her butt, and now she's looking up at this figure standing directly in front of the window, looking down at her. She gets to her stomach, starts bear crawling away. She's just going to find her daughter to make sure that she could protect her, and she hears her husband pulling into the driveway because she could hear the gravel that his wheels are smushing. She runs to her daughter and she hears the front door open, and she doesn't know if it's going to be this man that she just saw with the yellow eyes or her husband, but she hears her husband greet her when he opens the door. Obviously, the husband's a little freaked out seeing his wife so frantic, and she fills him in on everything that she just saw. She told him, I definitely saw a man outside. Somebody is circling our house. I'm freaked out. He was face to face with me, and he's a little bit overwhelmed because he's like, I just came home from work and school and you're freaking out, and I didn't see anybody when I pulled up. And her husband is a woodsy guy. He's He's a hunter. He has rifles and stuff like that. So he's not freaked out initially. He's like, I could definitely protect you. And I don't even know if what you saw is real. So he just immediately goes outside with his flashlight. He's ready to confront whatever it is. He's not scared. He spent full nights in the woods. He didn't find anything out there. And he just thought his wife is freaking out. She's not used to living in the woods like this. It's all good. She's working herself up, whatever. He proceeds to calm her down and tell her she just needs to get used to the sounds. She's not used to living out here. And he's just trying to console his wife. But she doesn't want to hear it. She knows what she saw. She saw a figure right outside of her window. She was face to face with it and she watched it look down at her. So there's a little bit of tension there, but she just complies because her husband's home. She feels like he could protect her. And she lets it slide for the night, but she's still on high alert. She was on high alert, but after a month goes on and she didn't see it again, things start to calm down a little bit. She actually said that she avoided looking out the windows for a few weeks because she couldn't handle the idea of looking out and seeing it again. But after a month passed, she got comfortable with it and she was doing chores and she started looking out the windows again. She was facing her fears. And of course, right when she felt like she was ready to look out of the windows, she's home alone again. And she sees the eyes appear right outside of the window again. And she goes right back into the same routine. She turns all of the lights off. She goes directly back to her daughter because she's like, it's back. I need to protect my kid. And this time when she turned the last light off, finally got a clear glimpse of what she was seeing. And it is so clearly a man. It is not an animal. It is not a dog. It's not a fox. It's not a bear. It is a man standing right up against her window looking in. And it's not just a man. He has horrifying glowing eyes. They're bright orangish yellow. And she just sees this dude standing here and she's home alone with her daughter in the middle of the woods. She can't take her eyes off this thing because she doesn't want to lose it again. She basically crawls to her landline phone to call her husband. She decided in the last second that she wasn't going to call her husband because he was too far away and he was probably in class, so she called the police instead. And of course, right after she got off the phone with them, the figure disappears from sight. And for the entire time until the police showed up, she was just sitting motionless in her house, completely silent, and she could clearly hear somebody circling their house, running around their house. She could hear this thing circling their home, and she just has to sit there quietly waiting for the police to show up. She's just waiting to hear a window break and start fighting for her life, but luckily she hears the sirens show up and she could see the lights outside of her house. She's absolutely freaking out when she opens the door for the police and she's filling them in on everything that she saw, how she saw it last month, how she saw it today, and the cops are just trying to console her, trying to make her feel better. There's enough people here now that she isn't as scared, but she knows what she saw. And as the police are searching the property, the husband comes home as well, and he knows exactly what happened. He knows exactly why they're here, and he's a little bit frustrated initially. The husband said that he was initially pretty upset with his wife because he felt like she was drawing too much attention to them. They had just moved into this kind of neighborhood. The neighbors were going to see the police there and they were going to think something was up. He just didn't like that look for his family, and he felt like she was genuinely overreacting. And just like last time, the police didn't find anything either, so they eventually have to go. They have other things to do and they have to leave this house. And she's just stuck there with her husband who doesn't believe her, these cops that probably didn't believe her, but she knows exactly what she saw. This time, another incident didn't happen for a stretch of 4 months. Last time it was only 1 month, but this time enough time had passed where their guard is completely down. 4 months pass and you just completely forget about it. And you just get back into your routine at your new house. The wife even said that she probably did just get spooked from living in such an isolated place for the first time. She was comfortable to leave it behind her. They didn't even talk about it anymore. But on the first big snowfall of the year, the husband woke up early to surprise his wife and daughter with donuts and coffee and just a fun breakfast for both of them. But after he cleans up his car and he gets into his car and he's warming it up, he's adjusting his mirrors and he actually sees a figure behind him. But when he fully adjusts it, the figure's gone, but he knows that he saw something. The husband's about that action. He's not about to sit in his car scared, so he immediately turns his car off, grabs his flashlight and starts looking around for this guy because the thoughts start flooding in. Is this the guy that my wife said she saw? Like, I'm getting out. I'm going to confront this guy. And now in this moment, he's starting to realize that his wife went through the exact same thing. And maybe he should have taken her seriously because he's looking around the house. He knows he saw something and he knows it disappeared. So he's building empathy for his wife and he's searching for this guy. And while he's looking around his house, he actually comes across some tracks. So somebody was definitely here. He just got his first clue. And he's a hunter. He's used to tracking footprints. So he starts following these prints and they lead all the way up to his house. And then they just stop. So he's looking around like, where did this person go? He's inspecting these footsteps and then he's inspecting the wall of his house that's right there. And he realizes the roof to his house right there is not nearly as high as the access to the roof in the other places. This is just a 1-story roof. Their house was like built in like 3 layers, so you could easily access the first floor roof of this extension. And he backs up and he starts looking on the roof to see if there's any footprints up there, and he sees footprints on his roof. So he backs all the way up and he's looking on top of his house and he's like, is there something up here? Is there somebody on my roof right now? So he circles to the other side to see if he could get a glimpse of this person, but there's no tracks on the floor on that side. He knows immediately he needs backup because he found the tracks. Those tracks led to his roof. He saw somebody's here. I need backup. I'm calling my buddy. And it was his hunting buddy. And I know all of you have your one go-to friend that if something goes down, you just call them and he's gonna be ready. He's about that action too. And he tells his friend, there's somebody stalking my house. I need you here. I need backup. And his friend heads over right away. When his friend shows up, he already has his rifle out. He's ready for his buddy to get here so they can confront this guy together. He fills him in about what he saw. He shows him the prints. He shows him the prints on the roof. And as they're talking, they hear a thud on the other side of their house, like somebody jumped off their roof. They immediately run around the house, weapons out, ready to confront this guy. And they look at the perimeter of their house where they thought this guy would probably just hop down right next to the house, and there was no footprints there. But when they turn around, they see an imprint about 20 feet away from their house. And they go up to them and there's two clear footprints 20 feet away from their roof. It was almost as if this thing jumped off the roof, but not straight down, like it leaped 20 feet away from their house and landed on those two first footprints right there. Not humanly possible. And then they could see the tracks start running into the forest. There's the two initial ones 20 feet away from their house, and then they see the ones proceeding into the forest away from their house like it ran away. They give each other the look like, we're tracking this thing, right? We're going after this thing. We're figuring out what was on our house right now. Let's follow these tracks, and they just start following them directly into the woods. And mind you, both of these guys are hunters, so they're inspecting these footprints too, because they want to know what they're tracking. And they said that the footprints were like 2 feet long, like 14 inches or over, but it looks like it's something running on 2 feet. So it's gotta be a guy. It can't be a bear. A bear wouldn't run away on 2 feet. They don't know what to make of these tracks that they found, but they know that they're still following it. They both have rifles, so they're ready to track this thing down, and they head out right into the woods. But as they're pursuing this thing, they hear it in the distance. They could hear sounds of this thing running around, and they start to feel like they're not tracking it, but it's tracking them, which isn't the usual feeling for a hunter. Especially two guys with rifles, you don't feel like an animal is hunting you. So they could hear this thing, but they couldn't see this thing. And the sounds that they were hearing coming from this thing, they started off in front of them, and they were following the tracks. The tracks were still in front of them, but then they started hearing the same sounds behind them, and they start to feel like this thing is definitely behind them, but the tracks are still moving forward, so they're like, all right, we're just gonna keep following. But they were keeping their heads on a swivel just in case something went down. But what is fast enough to run so far ahead of them and then loop all the way around to start tracking them? What's even intelligent enough to do that? There's no man that's fast enough to be able to do that in fresh snow that's over a foot deep, to run way ahead of them, loop all the way around, and now they're hearing sounds behind them. So they have no idea what to do but just to continue following these tracks. They were following these tracks for hours, to the point where they were ready to give up. But right when they were about to give up, they see a cabin in a clearing, and the tracks lead right up to it. Not only did these tracks lead up to this cabin, they pulled up straight to the door. And both of these guys are like, we got him, let's confront this dude. And they start knocking on this door, trying to confront this guy that was on their friend's roof. They had built up so much anxiety on the way there that they were just pounding on this dude's house like madmen, looking in through the windows, demanding him to come out. And then eventually, when there's no movement, there's no sounds, they don't see anybody in the windows, they start to second guess what they're doing. They both have rifles. They followed a guy here. This is a bad look. If having the police at their house was a bad look, this look is way worse. Tracking a dude down and pulling up at his house with rifles, no bueno. So they start regretting, and they're like, should we head out of here? They hope that them pulling up to his house and knocking and scaring him was enough, and then they just head out. They just head home. But they realized that they were pretty far from home, so they decided to actually go to the nearest road and call the friend's dad to pick them up. So they didn't have to walk back. They could actually just drive. And obviously the friend's dad is a little bit confused. He's like, why are you guys in the middle of nowhere with your rifles out, and why do you guys seem worked up? So they explained the situation about how some dude was on his roof, and they had to track the footprints, and they found this cabin right here. And to their surprise, the dad actually goes, I know who lives in that. I could tell you exactly who lives in there. And he said it's a local mechanic that works at a tire shop right down the road. And he just says he's kind of like a hermit. He doesn't spend time with much people. He doesn't really talk to anybody, but you could find him at the local mechanic. Immediately, the two friends are like, yo, let's go pick up a raggedy tire and pull up to that mechanic shop tomorrow. I'm trying to confront this guy. He wouldn't come out. He was at my house. I need to see this guy. So they pull up to this mechanic shop with a raggedy old tire, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get this fixed, but they know that the person they're talking to is probably not the guy. They know it's the dude in the back that actually works on the cars. And luckily, the front desk person calls into the back and actually asks the mechanic to come out to grab the tire. And when he comes out, and he says when this mechanic comes out, he's an abnormally large person. He's an old guy. He's not exceptionally buff. He's actually a little bit feeble, but he's like 6'5". And he said when this guy looked up, he could see his eyes, and they were this weird orange hue, very similar to what his wife was describing. And he said that he could see in this guy's eyes that this guy recognized them. And there was this moment of clarity that they both knew exactly who each other were. But the mechanic just took the tire and went right into the back. And instead of coming out and delivering it to them, he rolled it out from the back so they wouldn't be able to see him again. And the two friends are immediately like, he's 100% the dude. He knows that we know that he's the dude. Why would he just roll it out? Why wouldn't he face us again? I know for sure that's him. That's bizarre. He's weird. Why is he so big? Why are his eyes so orange? Odd guy. But what are they going to do? Are they going to confront him? Are they going to assault him? Are they going to make this whole scene? Are they going to tell the police? How could they tell the police? They tracked him with rifles. It's this whole scenario where there's no real good options. But at least they know who it is. And he doesn't just not want to tell the police. He also doesn't want to tell his wife, because if he tells his wife, she's going to feel like she was right, she was in danger, you didn't believe her, and it would have been this whole situation. He didn't want to scare her even more. Plus, he didn't want to move. He didn't have the funds to move, so he didn't even want to bring it up in general. But he felt like he scared this man enough, showing him that I know who you are, that this guy wouldn't mess with his house or his family anymore. And again, a few months pass, no sign of this guy, no sign of anybody outside of their windows, no glowing eyes. Everything's good for a few months until his friend shows back up at his house. And his friend is like, dude, you got to get in the car. I need to show you something right now. He didn't think much of it at first, but from the route that they were going, he started to realize where his friend was taking him. He knew he was taking him back to that cabin. He's like, dude, this is not a good idea. I'm not trying to confront this guy. Honestly, at this point, I'm over it. He hasn't been back in my house. It's all good. But his friend cuts him off and he just says, dude, we're not confronting anybody. I found out that mechanic died, and there's actually police at his house, and something weird is going on there, and I just want to see in. I want some closure. And the husband is like, all right, I'm down, actually. He's not there anymore. I can't really get in trouble for it anymore. Nobody knows that we stalked him to his house. Let me get some closure for myself as well. And they pulled up, and there was a cop car, obviously right out front of his house, but luckily they were actually buddies with this cop. And they filled in this cop about the entire story. They left out some key details to not incriminate themselves, but they actually told him enough that the cop was like, hey, I wasn't supposed to tell anybody about this, but there is actually something really weird going on with this cabin. And since there was no other officers around at the time, he actually offered his buddies to take them into the cabin to just take a quick look before the other officers came, just to get some closure, like they said. And when they get to this cabin that they were just at a few months earlier, knocking on it, trying to start a confrontation, but this time the door's open, they get to peek in, and it's actually so bizarre in there. They look in, and there's nothing. There's nothing in this entire cabin. There's just like a stool and a table, and the floor is completely empty. The walls don't have any decoration. There's no toilet. There's no kitchen. It's just completely empty. And apparently this mechanic lived there full time. So it is so weird. How did he even survive in this place? And they start talking to the cop. They're like, wow, this is bizarre. This dude is like a hermit. This is so weird. But the cop is like, dude, that is not the weird part. I'm about to show you the weird part. And the cop goes, follow me, check this out. And he pulls him over to this sheet that's hanging almost like it's covering a window. But when he pulls it aside, there's a metal door behind the sheet. And when they open this metal door, it's just a room, a completely metal room. Think like a sane asylum. And in the middle of this room, there's like handcuffs and shackles that you would shackle your wrists and feet. And the cops in the area are like, what was this guy doing out here? And on the walls of this metal room, there's scratches and marks. It looks like somebody was in here freaking out. So obviously, this is a bit of an issue. This cabin is very weird. This mechanic was very weird. They even said when they walked in, there was like this overwhelming, like mildewy, wet dog smell inside of this bizarre metal room. Other officers were showing up soon, so the cop that they were friends with asked them to leave, but they were like, that was one of the weirdest things that we've ever seen. And they start talking to each other and they're like, whatever was at my house, whatever was on my roof, whatever we tracked through the forest, what we were hearing in the forest that was able to run so far ahead of us and loop around us must have been shackled in that room. Whatever the mechanic was hiding must have been in that room. They were even more sure of it after more months passed and nobody showed up at the husband's house anymore. There was no more sightings after that. So whatever it was must have been in that room and associated with that mechanic. But they didn't really get the closure that they wanted. Going to this cabin just made it even weirder. They know that something bizarre happened to them and they actually didn't get answers. They just knew it was even weirder than what they initially expected. And that's pretty much the end of this story. I personally think the mechanic was a werewolf. I don't know. Let me know what you think. No matter your relationship status or your thoughts on Valentine's Day, I think that we can all agree that sometimes things are better together. Things like Six Flags and funnel cakes, baseball and hot dogs, Starbucks and high school girls. These things are just matches made in heaven. You know what else is a perfect match? My spooky stories and Raycon's everyday earbuds. I truly use my Raycons every single day. I prefer these because of their perfectly gelled tips. They fit directly in my ear so comfortably, and they don't fall out. And like any serious love story, Raycons are here for a good time and a long time. They have an 8-hour playtime battery life and a 32-hour battery life in general if you just leave them around, but you should be putting them in and listening to my stories for 8 hours straight. And most importantly, you get high quality audio for half the price of other premium audio brands. And don't just take it from me, take it from the thousands of 5-star reviews that these things have got. They're used to getting love. I personally like their noise cancellation and awareness mode because I like to tune the world out every once in a while. So even if I'm not listening to stuff, I keep these in and I just put on noise reduction so I could focus on writing. And I love their long battery life because I always use these when I work out, and you guys know I can't record a new story for you guys unless I get a nice lift in before. Go to buyraycon.com/Dougie today to get 15% off of your Raycon order, plus free shipping. That's buyraycon.com/Dougie to score 15% off with free shipping. buyraycon.com/Dougie. So just like how I mentioned earlier, I lived in upstate New York when I was a kid. And at least once a month, my entire family would get together and just do a whole gathering, and all of the cousins would be at this house and have this big, massive sleepover. We would do it at my cousin Mikey's house. And his house had a really nice kitchen for all of the adults to hang out in, and bedrooms upstairs for all of them to sleep in, and then all of the cousins would sleep in the den. So after dinner and all the festivities, all the parents went upstairs to sleep and all the kids stayed downstairs for a movie night. Mind you, we were in upstate New York. We are in the middle of nowhere in the woods. There's barely any houses around us. It's literally, you look outside and it is straight up woods, 360 degrees. And all the cousins, even though we were young, we decided to watch a little scary movie. I was on the younger end, but some of my older cousins decided to watch Halloween, the one with Michael Myers. It was a little bit too scary for me, so I wasn't really paying attention, mostly hiding behind pillows and trying to talk to my other younger cousins. We were trying to avoid the movie so much that eventually we started to go mess around in the kitchen. So half of my cousins, mostly the older ones, are in the living room, but me and a couple of my younger cousins are now hanging out in the kitchen. So right at this one moment where all of the older cousins experienced a jump scare from the movie and started yelling and screaming and making a lot of noise, me and the younger cousins in the kitchen heard the doorknob twist a little. And we all got kind of freaked out because we heard them yelling, but then we definitely heard something at the door. We immediately freaked out and ran into the room. The older cousins thought that we were running in because they were all screaming and we were trying to see the part that made them all scream. But right as we get into the room, terrified, we hear our doorbell ring and all of us freak out. We all look towards the door because it is nighttime. All the parents are asleep. Why would the doorbell ring? We weren't expecting anybody else. Our entire family is here. So the older cousins pop up and we all start tiptoeing towards the kitchen to look at the door, but there's nobody behind the door. We start looking through the windows. We don't see anything. And then our oldest cousin opens that door and we see 2 footprints right in the snow. 2 very distinct, clear footprints. And then we see them kind of like run away into the woods. So the initial fear kind of turns into a little bit of excitement because we think somebody ding-dong ditched us. And you know, as little kids, especially in upstate New York, it's a tight-knit area. And there's definitely other kids in the area. They're not right next door, but if you go a little bit into the woods, there's other houses after a little small 5-minute hike. So we immediately think, this is a ding-dong ditch competition now. We're about to get them back. And some of the older cousins are old enough that it's okay for us to leave the house. Usually not at night, but we thought it would be fun. All the cousins are together. It would be a core memory. Let's go follow these tracks and let's go ding-dong ditch them back. And believe me, I understand how bad of an idea that is when all of the parents are already asleep and we're in the middle of the woods. But at the time, most of my cousins and myself were used to living in the woods. So we thought, let's track this person down. Let's ding-dong ditch them. Let's mess with them the same way they messed with us. So we all get our boots on, our jackets, everything. And we feel like we're on this little mission. We're all into it. We're pumped. We're a little bit freaked out because we were just watching a scary movie, but we're pumped to go get these people back. So we follow these tracks into the woods, but it's not towards the main road where most of the houses usually are. It's out of the kitchen door, which kind of leads to the backyard. But there's definitely houses and stuff back there. It's just a little bit further. So we follow these tracks all the way into the woods, 10-minute walk. But mind you, there's literally like 12 of us. So we're not really that freaked out. And with the excitement of our entire family together, all the cousins together, we had a level of bravery that we usually don't have in those woods. Plus we had the numbers and we only saw 1 footprint that might have been 2 if they stumbled or something like that, but it was definitely 1 person. So we thought, we got like 12 people. We're not nervous. Usually there's like driveways and clearings around houses, but when we follow these tracks, we pull up to this house that isn't in a clearing and there isn't a way to drive up to it. It's just a house in the middle of the woods. We explored these woods often, but we had never seen this house, but usually we didn't go towards the back. We usually went towards the main street to other people's houses. So we weren't overly concerned. If anything, we were excited because we found the source of the house that just ding-dong ditched ditched us. And we decided to take it up a notch. Most people ding dong ditch, but one of my cousins thought it would be a good idea to ding dong chicken, which basically means one person goes up and ding dong ditches, and everybody sits on the front lawn, and the last person to leave wins. So it's basically like ding dong stay. I don't know if you guys ever played that. So we all pull up to this house and we all sit down in the yard, and my oldest cousin goes up to ring the doorbell. And mind you, this entire house, all of the lights are completely off. It's a pretty big house. It's like a 3-story bunch of windows. If all the lights were on, you could see directly into every part of this house. So we're excited to see all these lights turn on and see the person confused and then be extra confused when he sees 12 kids sitting on his lawn. We were pumped to get him back. But right as my oldest cousin is getting up to the doorbell, all of the lights in the entire house turn on all at once. And all of us are a little starstruck, and we're just looking at this house with all of these lights on. But the weirdest part was, there was somebody standing every single window of the house. And not a different person, not an entire another group of cousins. It looked like the exact same figure copy and pasted into every single window. And we're all just standing there. And he sees it because there's somebody standing right behind the door as well. So he doesn't ring it just yet, and then all of the lights turn off. And we're just frozen there because it got really bright for a second, then got really dark again. And my cousin didn't even bother ringing the doorbell. He actually started to back up close to the stairs of the porch. And we don't really know what to do at this point, and then all the lights turn right back on. It was almost like they had a power switch to the entire house, like they just turned the generator on and off. But this time, there wasn't a figure in every single window. There was only a figure in the attic window at the top floor. And we all see it, and the other cousins tell the oldest cousin to jump off the porch and go look at what we're looking at. And we just see this one figure standing exactly how it was standing in all the other windows, but just at the top one. But the entire point of the game was to not run, so we're all just standing there, and this guy definitely sees all of us. But this time the lights don't turn back off. We just see this guy staring at us while we're staring at him. And after a couple moments of just having a stare off with this guy, we see the figure drop down a little bit like it's ready to move, and then it starts sprinting away from the window. And we watch this figure sprint from window to window as it's going down the entire house, like it went down the stairs, through a room, down another set of stairs, through the kitchen, through the living room. We see this thing sprinting towards the front door. Ding Dong Chicken was over. We immediately get up and we start sprinting before this thing could get to the front door, just towards the direction of the house. We're trying our best to stay together. There's a big group of us. The older cousins are trying to keep track of the little cousins, and we're just at an all-out sprint to the house until we all get there and lock the door behind us. When we left the house, we thought we were getting these people back. We thought we were going to prank them back, and we were going to take it up a notch, and we were going to win. But when we got back to the house, this was worse than the ding-dong ditching of us. This was worse than the Halloween movie. We have no idea what just happened. They totally won. But now we're back in the house. So we're not as scared. Everything's locked, and we're like, we're good on the night. We are not going back outside. Let's go to sleep. We're not going to wake up our parents to tell them what happened. We'll just tell them in the morning. And hopefully, if they come back and ding dong ditch us again, our parents will wake up and they'll handle it. We want no part of this. So we all fall asleep in the den, and we wake up to the smell of coffee and all of my aunts and uncles making breakfast in the kitchen. But we're all looking around like, who's going to tell them? And we all look towards the oldest cousin that was going to ding dong ditch the house, and he brings it up, and he starts to tell this story about what happened the night before. And all the parents are genuinely concerned. First off, they're mad. Why would we leave the house after all of the adults went to sleep? But we explained, we thought it was other kids. We thought other people were trying to ding dong ditch us. We thought it was fun. We were caught up in the moment. But my uncles were not having it. They were like, take me back to this house. We don't like the sound of that. Show me what house you're talking about. Nobody really knows where it was because we just followed the tracks. We didn't really think about where this house was. So we decide all of us should go, especially because it was creepy, so we should go in the biggest group possible. So we all boot up and code up, and we leave the house and we try to bring my uncles to this house. But we end up being out there for like 2 hours, and we're searching for this house and we just can't find it. But this was a big house, and it wasn't that far from my cousin's house. So it was just this bizarre scenario of walking around for a few hours trying to find this house that this event happened at, that all of us remember, but we just can't find this house. To the point where my uncles are like, that was funny, way to work us up. These kids all made this up together. They're pranking us at this point. They just wanted to go out on a hike with us and freak us out. So they just immediately dismissed the whole scenario, and they're like, we're going back to the house. Let's go back to our fun family festivities. But we know that that house was there. The next night, we decide to absolutely not watch any horror movies. We don't want to work ourselves up again. And we're definitely not splitting up. We're staying in the big group of 12. We do not want to split up in the house. And that following night, the doorbell rang again. But this time, nobody moved. We wanted nothing to do with it. But we know what we saw the night before. And we know the doorbell rang again tonight. And when we talked to our parents the next day, they were like, we did not hear the doorbell. It definitely would have woken us up. Stop messing with us. Stop talking about it. We don't want to hear about your fake prank. And throughout my entire childhood, we would always get together at this house for family events, and all of the cousins remember this event. And my cousin that lived there goes through the woods all the time. They never found this house. To this day, nobody ever saw that house again. Nobody ever rang the doorbell again or anything like that. But it was like this house disappeared. And make of that what you will, but we all remember it. A group of kids, we remember this event happening, but we can't even bring it up to our family anymore because they think that we made it up and we're running this joke from when we were kids. They genuinely do not believe it happened, but we know it happened and we never saw that house again. So when I was in my early 20s, me and my two friends would always go on camping trips together on the weekend. If we had a long 3-day weekend, we would try to drive to this one campsite that we really liked. It was about 45 minutes from the house, and we would just pack up the gear and spend the weekend at this nice campsite that had a lake and activities, and it was usually pretty packed. It wasn't isolated camp, but we enjoyed just going out there and getting away from everything, putting our phones away, and just enjoying each other's company, and then we would get back Monday and go back to our everyday lives. So a 3-day weekend was coming up, so I text my two buddies. We have this nice little group chat just called Camping Buds, and we just have a little back and forth. I say, you guys trying to hit the campsite this weekend? They're like, absolutely, we'll meet you there. We're already going to be pretty close to there for work, and we'll just meet you at the campsite at this date and this time. And I'm like, perfect. I just heart their message, and I'm like, all right, I'll meet them there. I'm going to pack myself this time, and I'll just meet them there. All good. So the day finally comes, and I pack up all my stuff. I have a nice drive. I'm listening to a podcast on the way, and I pull up to the campsite, and I start pulling my stuff out. I don't see their cars there, but I'm assuming maybe they rented one. Maybe they're here on work, whatever. They just got here. So I take all my stuff out, and I walk up to the campsite, and I see my two buddies there that I always spend the weekends with, and they greet me very kindly. We start setting up everything. We're playing spike ball all day. We're just having a good time. It is business as usual. We're just enjoying the nature. We're enjoying each other's company, and it's just like every other time we spent there. But there was something a little bit weird about that day. Me and my friends always joke with each other and troll each other, and sometimes it's two people trolling one person. If two of the friends built an inside joke together and they were messing with the other friend, that was very common. There would be little banter between my two other friends that wasn't including me whatsoever, and usually that doesn't bother me. I don't mind being the butt of the joke. I'm willing to be the butt of the joke for the joke to be funny, but I just want them to let me in on it at some point. But it seemed like they weren't letting me in on it at all, and I didn't really understand the joke every single time they were saying. And the joke came out in a bunch of different ways, but I'll just give you a little rundown of the vibe. We would just be doing something. If it was something by the lake, if we were playing spike ball, if we were building the campfire, they would just say something along the lines of, what if we just left right now? And they would both start laughing, and it was definitely some type of joke that they maybe saw a meme about that they just weren't filling me in on, and they would laugh and I wouldn't know what they were talking about. And I'm like, I don't understand why it would be that funny if you guys just left right now. We're on a weekend trip. It made me feel a little bit isolated, but usually they would let me in on the joke a little bit later. As the sun started going down and we were eating dinner and sitting around the campfire, I was getting really sick of the joke, to the point where I was like, honestly a little bit salty about it. And I just kind of like pressed them and I'm like, can you guys just let me know what you guys are talking about so I could maybe laugh too? I'm starting to not really have a good time. I feel like you guys are enjoying this joke on my behalf and I don't feel a part of it. Usually we have a really good time here. What's going on here? And mind you, it wasn't happening all day. It was just in little spurts here and there. But when I brought it up to them, they were just kind of looking around and avoiding eye contact. But I just sat there in silence waiting for the reply for like 5 seconds, and then they both just shot their eyes up at me right at the same time. And in unison, my two friends that I've known for years just say, wouldn't it be funny if we left right now? And I'm like, no, it would not be funny. In my head. I'm saying that in my head to myself, like, no, that wouldn't be funny. It's dark out here. There's nobody else around. It would not be funny whatsoever if you left me in the woods by myself. That wouldn't be cool. That's not a good friend thing to do. But instead of laughing about it this time, they just stay serious and they just stand up and they start repeating it. Wouldn't it be funny if we left right now? Wouldn't it be funny? I think it would be funny if we left. And I'm just sitting there like, this isn't funny. I don't like this. I'm not enjoying my time. But they proceed to start walking away. They don't even grab any of their stuff. They just start walking into the woods. And I'm waiting for any second for them to start cackling and run back and tell me what they've been joking about. What is the origin of this joke? But they just continue walking until I see them disappear into the woods. And it's nighttime. This isn't even remotely safe. This isn't remotely fun. I'm not having a good time at this point. And I'm just sitting at this campfire for like 10 minutes. And they're not coming back. I get genuinely upset and I just start packing up my stuff. I'm like, you guys think it would be funny if you left? I'm gonna leave. I don't want to be here with you. This was like a relationship ending thing for me. Or at least I needed a legitimate apology from my two friends for just leaving me at this campsite. So I pack up my stuff, I throw it in my car. I feel completely isolated. I feel like the butt of the joke and I just drive home in the middle of the night. And I'm thinking about it over for a few days. I feel betrayed by my friends. I'm wondering if they feel bad about it because I actually left. And then I'm like questioning myself because I'm like, was it cool for me to leave? Was I being oversensitive? Was it a funny joke? Like what was going on here? So I finally call them. Well, I call one of them. And I'm like, hey man, I didn't really appreciate what you guys did to me this weekend. I'm actually, my feelings are kind of hurt about this. And my friend on the line goes, hey dude, like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, bro, you guys left me alone at the campsite this weekend. What do you mean? What am I talking about? And he goes, Doug, are you trolling me? Are you messing with me right now? And I'm like, no, why would you do that to me? I'm like, I'm really trying to figure out why my friends would treat me that way. And he goes, dude, I told you I was going to be at my niece's birthday party this weekend. Like, go reread this. Like, I think you're confused. Go reread these text messages. And he just hangs up. So I immediately call my other friend because he's usually a little bit more sensitive. I don't know if the first friend is continuing the joke. I had a bad taste in my mouth from him just hanging up on me and continuing to troll me like that. I'm like, maybe our friendship's over. Maybe he didn't even like me in the first place. So I call my other friend and I'm like, hey dude, I just called friend one and he's continuing this joke and it's really bugging me and I don't know why you guys would do this to me. And he says a very similar thing. Dude, I was working this entire weekend. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know what I did. I thought I was pretty clear that I couldn't make it this weekend. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You told me you were going to meet me there. We were there and you guys walked off. And he goes, bro, I'm at work. I have a 5-minute break. I need to eat my lunch. Let's just talk later. And he seemed a little bit apologetic, but I'm even more angry. So I go back to our text thread and I'm about to send them a paragraph that I didn't appreciate this whatsoever. And I start to look at my text messages and they don't look like the text messages I got before I left. The ones that I read was like, yes, I will be there at this time. Excited for it. The other one was like, yep, I'm free this weekend. Can't wait to have a boys trip. I'll be there at 5 p.m. But this time I'm reading over these text messages and the first friend's text messages, sorry man, I have my niece's birthday this weekend. I'll see you next time. And then my other friend said, I have worked this whole weekend. I'll catch you guys next time. And I start internally freaking out because I'm like, I read these text messages as if my friends were meeting me at this campsite. And when I got there, they were there. I spent an entire day with my friends. There was just a little bit of a weird vibe. And I start to think I'm going crazy because I spent the day with them and they stood up and they walked into the woods. But these text messages aren't even slightly reflecting the text messages that I thought I read. And then I'm thinking, did I dream that? Did I not go there this weekend? So I go back to my trunk and I check my stuff and all my camping stuff's in there. I check my GPS. I definitely drove there, but they're completely denying it. And these text messages reflect that. And I'm looking at it and I'm trying to see, like, did they edit these text messages? Is this like this whole bit? But then they both just send a long text saying like, hey Doug, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you called me so angry. I'm not sure what's going on. Are you okay? And then I started to feel a little insecure about it. I was like, all right, I have to drop this. I don't know what's going on with me. But to this day, I have no idea who I spent that weekend with. I have no idea who those people were that looked like my friends that walked into the forest that night. And my friendship actually ended with them because I felt so messed up about it. And I still to this day don't know if they were trolling me and I don't know what happened that weekend. Hey guys, I hope you like this new format. We're throwing together some short story compilations like this so you guys can get more content on a weekly basis. It would help me so much if you liked and subscribed. And of course, what would help me the most is if you join the exclusive membership or buy a piece of merchandise at DougieCorrado.com, get some Chop Chop Story Boy merch. I'm going to continue posting relentlessly. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers by April. Love you. We're out.